So I want to talk a little bit about the log cabin build that I'm doing now. I had lots of options on how I was going to build that cabin. I spent about close to a year thinking about it, sleepless nights. I came up in here and looked over these trees, and I determined that I wanted, if I'm going to build it out of logs, I wanted the logs to be between 6, 8 inches, no bigger than 10 inches. So I come up in here and actually did mark some of these trees with orange paint last year. You can see a lot of the trees are bigger than that, but I did determine that I could come up with enough of that size trees to build this out of logs. Now, like I say, when I get a project going, I seem to spend a lot of nights thinking about it. And I determined that I needed to go in a different direction. And we'll go down on the porch of the log cabin and we'll discuss. I'll tell you exactly why I didn't choose to go with logs themselves. If you watch the video, number one, getting material to the site, this particular job site, is a little difficult. I carried most of the stuff up here. I can get the tractor up one side of this building. Behind the building is a 15-foot high bank, 2 foot off the building. So you can't get a tractor to the back of the building. Can't get a tractor over to this side of the building because of the house. In the front, I can't get a tractor out there because we're like 7, 8 foot off the ground here in this porch. So the only side I could get a tractor on was that side. And even that, not the whole length of the building. So that was one thing I thought of. And if I would have cut trees to make 6, 8 inch logs, what I would have done was cut them 10 foot long, because it's a 20-foot building. I'd have cut them 10 foot long. I'd have took them on the sawmill and I'd have took a slab off of 2 edges to make them flat. And then I could have stacked them the way I wanted to and put timber anchors between or into them. So I got to thinking about that, and the first thing was getting the logs up here. And then the second thing that came to mind is, as I was stacking these logs, there was going to be a point where I couldn't lift them by myself. Because I couldn't have the tractor here, I would have had to rig up some kind of a system to use cone longs or something to crank them up and set them on the walls, all 4 walls. Now, let me back up a little bit. One of my goals is to see if I can build this and finish it by myself. I have lots of friends that would help. Not that I don't have friends, but all I'd have to do is ask and I could have a crew here. But a little bit of a backstory. My dad and my grandfather both, I'm 60, I'll be 67 in December. My dad and my grandfather both, my grandfather into his 70s, my dad made it to 81. They were doing projects by themselves clear into almost their final days. They loved working out in the mountains. You know, there was always something they were doing. They didn't have tractors, they didn't have sawmills, they didn't have any of the equipment I have. And they were able to do a lot of things themselves. And I guess me doing this myself is as much of in my heart thinking about keeping up traditions to my grandfather and my dad. So that's why I try to do this by myself. Not that I couldn't get help. So anyway, considering that, there was no way I thought I could lift logs and get it done quickly. I could have made ways to roll logs up sides and lift them with, like you say, put up uprights and lift them with the come-alongs. I could have figured that out, but I decided I didn't want to go that route. So one of those sleepless nights, the other thing popped into my head. I could build a vertical log cabin. I have lots of experience with being in a vertical log cabin because we have a camp, and that camp is made of vertical oak logs. We've had that camp all my life. Back in the original camp was vertical logs. They were what were they? Chestnut logs. So they're really beautiful camp because the chestnut turned gray. But in '76, while I was in the Army, that camp burnt down. So in '80, I was just getting started with a new job, and my grandfather and dad decided to build another camp on the same foundation. So my grandfather purchased oak logs from a couple guys, all about the same diameter, like 8-10 inches. And he, down at his house, which is just a few houses down from here, is where he used to live. He built 4-foot sections of these logs, walls. He put a plate in the top, plate in the bottom, and filled in with logs. And him and my dad hauled them out there in a pickup truck, and then set those 4-foot sections up. It was something they could handle, 4 foot. So that was an option that I thought about. I wouldn't have built sections. I would have put up a log in the corner. I'd have probably had a header or a plate, the top and the bottom, run out, and maybe a 4x4 to hold it up, and then fill in the logs and keep moving. I could have done that myself without any real issues. But the more I thought about my particular situation here on this land, I thought I need to go a different route. I really loved the logs. Really was torn not to use the log, especially vertically, because I knew I could handle that. But what made me change my mind is I bought a sawmill, and I say this in some of the other videos. I bought the sawmill because my grandfather, those trees that I showed you in the beginning of this video, that's just one stand of trees. There's a couple of them up there. My grandfather planted all those 80 plus years ago, and they started blowing down. Every storm seems like it uprooted a couple more of those. They're 80, 90 foot tall, and it just uproot them, and they'd lay there and rot. And that's why I got the sawmill, was to utilize those trees that my grandfather planted. You know, I built a lot of things. You've seen them. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll see different things I built with those lumber for those trees. And I thought I want to continue along those lines with this build. I will get the exact figure when I'm done here, but right now I am estimating that 80% of this build will be from storm blowed over trees or snapped off trees. If you watch the videos, you'll see where these hemlock boards, these hemlock logs, there was a tree that snapped off 20 foot high, a 23-inch diameter hemlock that fell down into a 20-foot deep ditch. There's a creek at the bottom of it, and it washed over the years. It gets deeper and deeper. It's like 20 foot deep now. And I spent days and days, even with the tractor, pulling those logs out of there. I had fits pulling those logs out. Those videos are all there. I lost my religion more than once getting those logs out of there. But that's what these hemlocks are. So they're storm. That all the siding on this that will make it look like a log cabin when I'm done with it. They are from a storm snapped off tree. Plus, well, there's actually 2 of them in that ditch. And then I went and found 2 or 3 standing dead hemlock, because the hemlock are dying off in Pennsylvania. And I found some standing dead that I got. All the white pine sheeting for the roof, which is my exposed ceiling now, they came from storm blowed over big white pine. If you watch some of those videos, you'll see where I found white pine that were hollowed out, and I was able to salvage a lot of wood out of them. And you know, the pine looked beautiful, but it was hollowed for 20, 30 foot, and that's why they snapped off. It's a different story, but that's where the white pine came from. And I have it on the ceiling, and I also have a stack of white pine live edge on one side that I'm going to use for the interior walls. Now, a lot of the framing, the floor joists and things were yellow pine and some spruce that, again, were storm damaged trees. Most of the floor joists were storm damaged trees. So I cut them out of that. Now, I did have to cut some spruce down to get some of these beams. So they were live trees, and I take the least amount of live trees as I can to get the project done. I'm figuring, like I said, 80% of this at least will be salvaged lumber tripped from trees that nature took over, not me. So that probably is the main reason I chose to build this way. Now, some other reasons. Okay, these walls. Another reason why I didn't use logs. These walls can be insulated. If I use logs, you have an R value of a 6-inch log, 8-inch log might be 8, I don't know, 7, 6, 8. You know, these walls are going to be R14, 15 probably. The building has building wrap on the outside, so that's for air infiltration. We'll stop that. So I'm going to be able to heat this building a lot easier than a log place. Although logs, you get above and beyond R value, you get a mass value. The log, once it absorbs the amount of heat that it'll absorb, it takes time, then it retains that heat, and it like a radiant. So logs are good. I you know, like I say, we have a log cabin at camp. But this insulated stuff, I mean, this is a workshop that's not going to be heated to livable temperature 24/7, but I want heated so that the products we have in there, you know, don't see this 30 degree to 70 degree ups and down, keep the moisture out. And so I'm going to, however I heat it, whether it'll be with a pellet stove, I'm leaning toward the pellet stove because I think I can regulate those better than anything else. The 20 by 20 section will heat, I think, fairly easy. I have a way I'm going to insulate this roof that I'll show you when I put the tin on the roof. But anyway, that's another reason that I lean towards this way to construct it. Now, as far as ease of construction, I ended up putting 4x4s every 5 foot. Okay. And I plumbed them up and put a 10-foot 2x4 on top to tie them together, braced them, plumbed up. Then I came back and put the bottom plate in there. And then I went back, and every 16-inch centers, I put 2x4 studs. And that's what I did to the whole building. Okay, so normally, if you did stick construction like this, you'd have a crew, they'd have built that 20-foot long wall on the floor. They'd have set it up, nailed it down. I couldn't build and set up, plumb up, nail all that by myself, and I already told you why I wanted to do this by myself. So that technique that I just explained was so simple and allowed me to do this by myself. So that's another reason I picked this method of construction. Okay, so there are all the reasons that ran through my head and why I ended up doing it this way. Again, if you have a piece of land that you can build something like this on, go for it no matter which way you decide. Logs, you know, if you have crews that can help you, if you have equipment and you want a log place, build a log place. I would definitely, our logs at camp are just logs, and then we chink between them. They're vertical, but wouldn't matter. They're just logs, and you know how logs will have, you know, so chinking and getting that joint is an issue in itself. I would definitely run them through a sawmill and square up two sides, so when you butt them together, even if you wanted to put some insulation in there and butt them together, you'd have a lot better product than what we have out camp. And there's nothing wrong with that. That log cabin is great. I mean, there's other things that difficult doing in a log place, like wiring it up for electric and this and that and the other thing. But but go for it if you have it. Another reason I went this route is with a log cabin, you got a log, outside, inside, log. This I have hemlock siding. Inside walls, 3 of those walls are going to be live edge white pine boards lapped. The back wall, I think I'm going to do something with some kind of hardwood, either cherry or maple or something, maybe vertical, I don't know yet, live edge, I don't know yet. And they're going to be a fireplace mantle type situation back there. If you do logs, you got logs. You can do some of that other stuff too, but this way I get to get different looks in different places. So anyway, that's the story behind how I got where I got here. If you're looking to build something like this for yourself, consider what I told you and go for it, because this has been really, really enjoyable at this point. All right, if you want to, there's I think 26 or 27 episodes right now of me building this, getting to this point where I'm at now, and there'll be many, many more that I'll drop as I keep finishing this off. So if you're interested in seeing the complete build, go to the channel or go somewhere here. You're going to see a link to the first video or one of the videos. Go there and start watching that, and I will see you on the other side.